Welcome back to our relationships trek, brought to you by Egoless. I'm Karen Latinsky.
And I'm Shannon Grace.
And we are very happy that you are joining us today. Today we are talking about one of the reasons why Shannon had to be here for this. I know I'd mentioned in the last episode that Shannon had given me the best advice for my marriage ever in the history of any of my relationships with anybody.
I feel so special.
It's so important.
I really appreciate that it meant that much to you.
And I've shared it with a lot of people. And don't worry, I've given you credit all the whole way. But it's just really, really, really crucial advice that actually is relevant in any relationship that you're in, even with relationships with coworkers or your relationship with the person walking down the street. Mm-hmm. You know, it's such an important piece of information that I feel like everybody needs to hear.
Well, and just to build off of that, I really feel that with our desire to have healthy relationships in our life, there are some key concepts or key realizations that are so beneficial to have as we work towards these healthy relationships. And what I shared with you that day was definitely one of those key pieces or key realizations that, like, once you know something that you didn't know before, it can just open up like so much freedom and so much healing and so many realizations.
Yeah.
And like,
and when you realize it with one relationship, all of a sudden you're like, oh, that makes everything else make sense now.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel that this track will be a lot about sharing like key realizations or key components of relationships and that then will allow healthy relationships to
And just
develop
and shift your energy too, so that you actually become more harmonious yourself, and therefore everything
to the
else.
relationship.
Yeah, in general. So we were at McNally's, and I can't remember what it was, but I was mad at my husband.
Well, I had shared a lot of my relationship journey with you as well, with my spouse, and I've just
There's
learned
no sense in trying to be perfect.
No, and just like I find that like so much learning happens when someone is willing to just be honest about the yuckies and what we're going through.
Right, because every relationship goes through them.
They do.
Yeah,
and so I've just learned it's like I just don't have a filter. I'm just willing to share whatever I feel is relevant to the conversation in that day with whoever I'm with.
And I think that's what triggered me to
was,
not have a filter.
Because then all of a sudden you were like, I think I've been like burying a lot of stuff that's actually bothering me.
Right.
Because you wanted to have a good relationship. But my philosophy is like you have to deal with the yuckies, which the swirls.
And it's kind of like the curse of the optimist. You know, you're like, oh no, everything's good. And then as we started talking, all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, we have some things we need to work on. And I felt like the more our conversation kind of just took off, the more I realized, I think I started like getting emotional, like angry, right? And then you said, this is it. You put 2 napkins down on the table and you said, this is you, this is Matt. You're like, it's always easier just to leave. You know, it's always going to feel easier to leave.
Yeah.
Staying together is the hard part. Working it out is the hard part. And she said, every single person has these little swirls. These swirls are our issues. And let me know if I'm translating this properly, but this is how I remember it.
So far, yeah.
Okay. Every little person has these little swirls. These are our issues. And you can go ahead and leave Matt,
but you take your napkin with you.
Your swirls with you. They will follow you around for the rest of your life until you deal with your swirls.
Yes.
You know, and if you don't end up in another relationship, your kids will bring them out, your coworkers will bring them out, your family will bring them out, everyone else in the world will bring them out in one way or another.
The stranger on the street
will bring
them out.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That was a big holy shit moment for you.
Yeah, you can't run away from them. And, and I felt like I knew this on some level already, but the way you put it, the way you worded it into these swirls, and I'm such a visual person, that I was like, oh, like I don't want to have to carry these swirls around with me, because you continued on to say, this has nothing to do with Matt. This is you. In your life, you attracted these issues. So forget about Matt. Why did you attract these issues into your life?
And then you saw the patterns.
And then you started breaking a few of them down.
Right? Like she was able to see like, oh crap, like the things about Matt that I'm struggling with, I've struggled with those same things with other people
in different ways. Ways that they could go unnoticed.
Yeah.
But as you're building that awareness and as you're looking at them and being willing to examine my own mistakes and
your own
my own patterns, that's when I was like, okay,
and
this is
like she basically said, you're right. It doesn't, like, it's not even Matt, like this isn't even
he's
Matt.
Just like the host
that's right.
Yeah,
he's the manifestation of these swirls, which are the patterns that we carry,
that we need to look at. And so
and you stop blaming Matt.
I stopped blaming him in that moment, because I was like, okay, like this is my shit. I have to deal with this. And until I do, this will just keep reoccurring. This has nothing to do with Matt.
That's right.
So it gave me this huge sense of empowerment. As much as I didn't want to look at myself or blame myself, as I did look at myself and feel accountable for everything that I was experiencing, that empowered me. And that's when I realized, okay, I can make change.
Yes.
And
I can stop the swirls. I can stop the swirls.
Speaking of swirls.
Right? Yeah. So I got this tattoo a year ago. I knew what tattoo I had to get. Like, it was shown to me. And
this was before we talked about swirls.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This was just a monumental moment in my life where I felt like I had finally dealt with my swirls. But I didn't even, again, like, intellectually, I didn't understand the symbolism of this. I thought it was like the ocean and like coming from the darkness into the light and like the emotion, because like water is emotion for me. But it wasn't until a few months later I just realized, I was like, oh my gosh, like, and someone gave me the awareness of it. When she saw it, she was like, Shannon, I feel like you're bringing form to the chaos. And she said, like, the swirls are the chaos, but these little shapes here are the form and like the realizations or the structure that comes from the chaos. Like, once you deal with the chaos, once you deal with your swirls, you are able to like create form from the chaos. And I was just like, mind blown. Like, yes, that is 100% like such a strong symbolism or such a strong message of what I know that this means. It's just
and what you naturally do.
And what I naturally do. I'm so blind to what I naturally do.
We never know what our gifts and talents are.
No, we really
because
don't.
They're so easy for us.
That's right. We don't even realize what they are.
And it takes an outsider to tell you, no, Shannon, that's freaking amazing. The world needs to hear it. You are an expert in relationships.
I was like, no, I just thought that it was like the ocean and like coming from the darkness into the light.
Right.
That was my awareness at the time, but now it's so much more than that, thanks to you and thanks to this other friend of mine that like she just knew at a whole different level what this meant. So
and the darkness into light is what happened that day.
Yes.
So I just remember
I'm like the light bulb lady.
And I remember finally, like, at one point I was like, hey, I can't handle anymore. Like, breakers were being blown. I had to now digest and process this. And so I got into my car and I just remember driving to work, and something inside of me had just straightened out. Like, it was, and placebo or whatever, a swirl had straightened out. And
but
there was this
physically felt it.
I physically felt it. Like, it was amazing. I felt like I was twisted up and I didn't even know, energetically, in some part of my being. And it had untwisted, straightened out, and I'm just driving in this like beautiful feeling of balance and harmony. And since that day, anytime that Matt and I, or anyone and I, have conflict, right away I'm like, okay, why am I attracting this in my life? What's my part in it? What am I supposed to learn from this? And what patterns do I need to correct
within yourself? And it's so easy for us. And I feel that we've often, like, a lot of us have been brought up to point fingers and to be like, this, I don't like how they're treating me, and I don't like what they're saying, and I don't like what they're doing. But there's a good old saying that if you point a finger at someone else, you have 3 pointing back at yourself. And I just feel that, like, empowerment and ownership is the key to making change with anything in your life, because we actually have no control over anything or anyone else. The only thing that we can actually, that we have a sense of control over, is ourselves. And I very much, like, promote, you know what? Yes, it totally sucks what is happening here in this relationship, and it isn't okay, and it does suck that you've put up with it for this long. However, he's just a manifestation of your own swirls, which are your beliefs, and how he's behaving is a manifestation of our own beliefs and swirls and past trauma
and
that we haven't healed, and our wounds that we haven't healed. So when we deal with that within ourselves, all of a sudden, it's amazing how other, like, the ripple effect, like you had shared with me, like Karen said, Matt is doing things different now, like ever naturally then, on his
when
own.
When I worked on my
like,
swirls,
oh my God.
And of course I shared this conversation with him, but when
I was like, Matt, do you know you're being different now? And I didn't even ask, it just happened.
Right, well, because, and it's so true, like, when we change, our world changes, and we also encourage people to change. And you had said too, as someone works on their swirls, a lot of times they'll either drift away from a relationship if they're no longer compatible, or it'll just naturally prompt the other person to work on their swirls too.
That's right.
Yeah.
Either way, it's like, it's growth and it's expansion, and it's helping to stop the patterns, because I bet there's so many people watching this right now realizing, like, holy crap, I left this one relationship, or I got this person out of my life, but after that there were other people who were doing the same types of things to me,
or triggering the same emotions that person did, and that's you can't run away from it. You can't run away from your swirls. And the thing I loved about the way you work with people is you simplify it. You know, a lot of times you're like, okay, now I'm gonna have to do like years and years of counseling to figure out my swirls, to figure out how to get rid of them and all this, whereas you, and I forget what book I was reading at the time too, but it was just like, it all just comes down to choice. You know, all this time when you were unaware of it, you were choosing to continue those patterns. But as soon as you're aware of them, then you can choose differently.
That's right.
You know, and all it is...
Awareness gives us choice.
It does. And all it really is just being like, and you said, you know, go back to Karen of the past and be like, okay, I can't even remember exactly what it was, but just understand where you were coming from and how these patterns, you know, maybe were serving you back then. And now you can
it was so that you could get through high school. There was a certain persona that you took on so that you could, like, be who you wanted to be in high school. But Karen's like, I don't want to be that person anymore.
I'm not that
I was like,
person.
But you're still carrying the swirl of it.
Exactly.
So you let that go.
I did, and then you just choose differently. And it was that simple.
Removing the swirl allows you to freely choose differently, and you're not fighting against yourself.
Right.
So I feel like there is a two-part process to this, where first of all, like, on some level, there's got to be awareness of the pattern or of the swirl. And then...
And the bravery to look at it.
You got to be brave. You got to put your big girl panties on, and you got to... And the big boy gitchies, and you've got to look at it. But there's freedom in that.
There is.
And once you look at it and you realize what it is, by letting that go, it gives you like the freedom of choice rather than choosing with the word I'm getting is like resentment or restrictions or resistance, because lots of times we try to choose different, but we're like attached in some way, to the swirl still.
So it's part of our identity.
That's right. And we haven't let go of that yet. So there's a realization, a letting go, and then and choice.
Choice. Like I no longer choose to be like this, or I no longer choose to allow this type of relationship in my life.
That's right.
I no longer choose to enable this. I no longer choose to allow someone to make me feel like a victim. You know, like there's so many different choices.
I no longer choose to let myself feel like a victim.
Exactly.
And then you can start to become aware of what you do choose. And the funny thing, I feel like this should be we're segueing into the next step of our track, but for me personally, I realized first what I didn't want before I could realize what I did want, or I knew what I wanted to stop choosing before I knew what I wanted to start choosing.
Right.
And that will be the exercise. That's the exercise.
Shannon's gonna leave you with a great exercise next.
That just gave me the awareness of what the exercise with this step is, which is like helping people realize what they don't want first, so that you can then realize, start forming what you. And
that's where the ego comes in handy, because the ego always notices what the problems, right? It always bitches about what needs to be changed.
Like, I don't like this, I don't like this.
He did that, she said this, and what
the ego doesn't realize is it's actually the gatekeeper that holds everything back here that is creating what we don't want. So the ego is very quick to pick out what we don't want, but the ego doesn't always realize that it's helping keep what we don't want alive.
Yeah,
definitely. So
so you'll create a exercise then for
that'll be attached to this step of the track.
Okay.
It's just, I always realize in the moment, like as I'm talking about a topic.
we don't start these with a plan.
No, because I'm all intuition with this. Like it's just like I know what the exercise will be as we're talking about what comes up in the topic.
And then the
exercise comes from the topic. So. And
then Shannon can leave all of her website information in that text exercise too, if you want. If you feel like you just need a little bit extra, because she is an amazing coach. And like I said, if you kind of are craving that light bulb moment to just really start shifting your relationship, she's your gal.
Thank you.
And
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, like I said, seriously, I feel like you saved me so much time and money on marital counseling, because things have been fine, great, like better than ever since then, and for both of us.
And it was like a coffee date.
Yeah.
Right? Like we just got together for coffee, and then boom, and then that was it. Like there was no therapy, there was no counseling. It was just we both were being open and honest with each other, and then
which is another good
the
reminder.
Realizations came from that, right? Because of these crazy awesome skills that I can download,
right?
And that I have, like I've learned a ton of them as well, but I don't know everything. But when I'm able to connect and be intuitive, then intuitively I do have the answers, even if I don't intellectually know what the solution is. Intuitively it can come through.
It comes through.
So
loud and clear. So anyway, so if you feel like in your life you probably have some swirls, which we all do, and you want to start actually changing your relationships from the core, from where you can control
energetic level, where everything stems from,
then you should do the next exercise and just pay attention. You know, be a good student of life. Let life show you what it is you're supposed to be working on, what kind of conflict and
because it'll show
drama.
up.
Oh, it'll show up,
like,
especially as you get ready for it. And like all of a sudden you might get like boom, 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 hit with like 3 different types of conflict or just challenges in your life, and they all mean something.
Better understanding what those challenges, why they're happening, and what's causing them, and that's what these what these messages in the trek are all about is to help you better understand what is going on, and to gather awareness and gather information so that as you navigate life, you have skills and you have knowledge and you've got tools to work with, instead of just like, I don't know what's going on. And, you know,
and you become self-sufficient.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
So thank you so much for joining us, and we will have more episodes coming shortly.
You betcha. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.